What if the biggest reason that you're not closing has nothing to do with your pricing, your script, or even your strategy? Instead, it has everything to do with the objections that you're afraid to face. You're hearing all the time, I need to pray about it. I don't have the money. Let me think about it. But deep down, you're wondering, I wonder if they're right. In this episode, we're not going to talk about the pressure or persuasion. We're talking all about clarity. Because when you stop fearing the objections that come at you and you start to understand them, you become the kind of leader that people trust to guide them through their breakthrough. So what if every objection that you hear is actually showing you where you still hesitate? So my friends, sit back, kick back, and let's get started. For this is the School of Influence. The School of Influence, where legends are made and legacies are started. Interviews and insights to grow your impact on social media, networking, and stages. Class is now in session. We're gonna take on the world! Hey, welcome everybody. I'm your host, Devin Schubert, also known as the Man in Orange, and I'm excited to bring to you this episode of the School of Influence. Today's guest doesn't just teach sales, he lives alignment. From 17 years in the healthcare to high trust coaching for kingdom entrepreneurs, he helps people shift how they sell, how they lead, and how they show up. He turns hesitation into holy conviction, and his sales are sacred assignments. Please help me welcome Matthew Todhunter. Hey, Matthew. Thank you for joining.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm excited for this.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm excited that you had me on here. It's really a privilege. It's an honor, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matthew, you've coached people who absolutely love God. But what I've found out is that many people will freeze in the moment when it's actually time to do the sale. So why do you think that so many Christians struggle with that ask, especially when they know that their offer can help people?
I think part of it is I think it's two parts. One is prosperity. I think a lot of Christians have a issue with charging for things. And a lot of it is due to the ministry side of it. And growing up in ministry, a lot of things in the church are offered for free. And so that kind of becomes a limiting belief, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people look back at wealth. If you look back in the Bible about wealth, there was gold in the garden. Abraham was very rich. Solomon was very rich. And so if you look at it from the perspective of wealth, riches, things like that is all just part of the kingdom. And at the end of the day, it's not yours, it's God. And that you're just a steward of that, then that kind of helps you overcome that whole prosperity, poverty mindset. In fact, I was just on a call the other day and a guy was telling me that that's been one of his struggles with actually earning income is he struggles with monetizing because he has a big background in a certain denomination that's really popular. And he said that as a result of that, that's really held him back from, charging for things. But then, a question I'll often ask people about that is, if you think about all the things that you've gone through, right? The sweat, the tears, the pain, the things that coaches do, to build bridges, that took a lot of value out of their life. And then if they're going to take that value and not have some sort of investment tied to it, then that's going to eventually be a big problem. They're not going to be in a place where you're going to actually affect change. But more importantly, coming back to the investment piece of it, look at Christ. I mean, our salvation wasn't free.
Mm-hmm.
It cost Christ his life.
Yeah.
And so coming back to what you have, that has value. And so if you just give that away for free, then one, you're doing yourself a disservice, but really you're doing the people a disservice as well. Because think about, I was actually thinking about this before we got on the call, Mary and her alabaster box. And that was like a year's worth of wages. And she broke it, laid it at the feet of Christ. And like people ridiculed her for it. But like the importance was with that whole thing was she took a year's worth of wages and laid that out on the altar because she knew that what was on the altar was more important and that she was more willing to make a change in her life to be like Christ than pretty much anybody else in the room.
Yeah.
And so when you have skin in the game and you make an investment, you're more likely to want to change your life than if you're getting something for free.
Yeah.
And so if you're a coach, if you're a business owner and you're struggling as a Christian to like monetize that or like ask people for money, then really you're doing those people a disservice and they're not going to have as much change as if you did monetize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. And I know at the end, we're going to get to the top 10 objections that we've heard and, doing a poll and asking people. But, well, pardon the interruption, but let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your story was meant to impact thousands or millions of lives, but you literally just didn't know where to start? Did you know that there's over 2.9 billion people watching social media every single day? That's literally the biggest stage in the entire world. And yet most people are completely invisible on it. Why? Because they don't know how to tell their story in a way that actually connects to other people. And that, my friends, is exactly why I created Stories to Stages. We help you craft your entire story, professionally edit your video, and then we publish it across all major platforms. Plus, I'm going to give you access to my entire storytelling bootcamp. This is over $25,000 worth of value, but right now you can get the entire thing for just $7. $7. Because this isn't just a course, this is a launching pad. We've helped people with no audience, no experience, finally share their story with confidence and to get real reach. Because your story told in the right way involves and moves people. So go to stories2stages.com and grab your $7 spot with the code of podcast1. Your story was not meant to stay silent. So let's get seen, let's get heard, let's get paid, and let's set people free. So go to stories2stages.com, grab your $7 spot, and use the code podcast1 and get yours today. Now, back to the show. It really sounds like there's two things. It sounds like there's the mindset issue, and then there's a value issue of like personal value. And right. I know one of the things that, you've kind of talked about when you and I have had conversations is about how the red flags kind of show up on the sales calls. So kind of tell us a little bit more about what does that mean?
Yeah. So like any red flags that you have in your life, and for those who don't know what a red flag is, it's basically like these little things that we kind of excuse and we push away for the sake of grace or for the sake of like not wanting to deal with them because the pain is too great to like actually deal with them. Like all of those little insecurities and things will show up on your calls whenever you're having like sales calls and things like that. So like if you struggle with making decisions, like typically the people that you talk to, whenever they struggle with making decisions, you're going to have a hard time helping that person get into a place where they are ready to make a decision. Or if you struggle with investing, like if you never invested in yourself, that's going to be a harder sell with conviction to get somebody else to invest in themselves. And so like just from personal experience, like I was going through a rough situation. I knew that I needed to become a better version of myself. I didn't have the money to do it, but I knew that what was on the other side behind like the investment was worth it and I was worth it. And so I realized that I needed to make an investment in myself. So I found a way to make it happen. And was able to invest in like a high ticket coaching program. And it was the best decision I ever made because it really put me in a position to where whenever I get on the phone with somebody and like talk to them about an offer or I talk to them about investing in themselves, I can do that from a place of conviction versus like, if you've never done that, it does make it a little bit harder. Not saying it can't be done, because you can look at it from not even a monetary perspective. You can look at it from a perspective of like time or energy and things that you've devoted that way. But regardless, like you've got to invest yourself and in yourself before you can ask other people to really do that.
Yeah.
And so going back to like the red flags and things like that, like any insecurity you deal with, if you're a people pleaser, you're going to try to people please people on the calls and not hold them accountable. You're going to struggle asking those tough questions because you're not going to want to offend somebody. Whereas what if you looked at it from the perspective of, by asking that tough question, God used that question to share the truth through the Holy Spirit in them and produce a life-changing result that forever affects their trajectory on their course with God.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I recognize, I go back to thinking of, me first joining my first academy and about coaching, and we're both a part of this academy, and most people don't know this, but I was actually rejected 6 months before my first. Yeah, I was actually rejected. I didn't even get a call, and I know now that my identity, my value in myself, what I had, wasn't right. And so then when I came back 6 months later, and I ended up, selling my trailer in order to join this program to be able to pay in full. Um, we had these calls to where you slowly process your way in, and so there was like 4 calls, and they would help you get clear, but like that. Yep, the auditions.
Yeah.
And so, we went through those, and at the end, if you made it and they thought you were a good fit and you thought it was a good fit, they would congratulate you and welcome you in. And she's like, I just want to congratulate you for, being welcomed in to our inner circle. And I was like, okay, cool. And she was like, some people cry, like you'd have like no emotion. I said, if you would have told me that I wouldn't have been accepted, I would have been emotional. But I knew from the very beginning that I've put everything into this, and I've sold my only thing that I have left in a trailer to be able to do this. I'm all in, and I know you've seen that. And so, there's those types of things of what you're saying is, I knew at the beginning that, yeah, it probably wasn't the right time 6 months prior. But the amount of growth that I had gone through was absolutely incredible in those 6 months. And so as I started to close, I recognized that in some of my thoughts of like, oh
Yeah.
man, exactly how I would project that and allow people to scapegoat their way out by bringing my own fear. And so how can you tell if somebody's bringing fear or doubt into the close, into the sale?
Like as the rep, you mean?
Yeah.
I think that if you continue to get like the same results from your calls, and so like let's say you continue to get fear-based results, like a lot of the people don't join because they're dealing with fear, then like it's a good idea to like look inward and say, okay, what is it about myself that is calling me to pull this out of the prospect, or to not confront them more about that? Or so if it's like if it's around like think about it, or faith, even let's say faith, which is like the opposite of fear, but like they're not having enough faith. Like maybe it's time to look inward and say like, how strong am I in my faith in God, that God is going to show up and provide regardless of what like the worldly circumstances show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I mean, it sounds like, if you haven't dealt with your fear, it'll speak for you on the call.
Oh,
I mean, it's so important that we deal with the things that are right in front of us and that are inside of us that we need to be able to address, because it oozes out. We expect only the good things to be able to be projected on other people, when actually a lot of times your filth is there as well, and people can pick that up.
right. Yeah. And then like if you're struggling with finances, you'll have what's called commission breath, where it's like you're so focused on getting the sale that like people, like a prospect can sense that. They can sense whenever you're like desperate for the money. And so like a lot of time, and I had this happen, probably about a year and a half ago, whenever I first started out, because I started going from a full-time job in healthcare to going into sales. And I noticed that like I had to create this mental divide of like where I was at financially to where like I would place myself, okay, I don't care. God's going to take care of it. Like God's going to take care of me financially. So I need to show up on this call. And if they buy for me, great. If they don't buy for me, great. I'm going to be good regardless.
Mhm.
And that would allow me to show up better on a call than like worried about, man, am I going to get this PIP?
Mhm.
And it could be challenging. You know what I mean? Like it can be challenging whenever you're checking your bank account and you're like, man, I made $1,500 last month. That kind of was not great. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, a big part of that is like, dealing with those insecurities and dealing with, you know, the struggles that you have and really working on them, but then also recognizing that like your prospects, here's something I tell people on sales calls whenever I talk to them. Like maybe they're wanting to be a coach or they're wanting to, be a speaker. A lot of times the things that you struggle with the most are what you're also called to help other people with.
Mhm.
And so like if you struggle with like addiction, you're probably called to like help other people with addictions.
Mhm.
And so like God will use your testimony, which is biblical, that we overcome by the power of our testimony. And
Mhm.
so like you can use your testimony to impact the lives of others. But you need to make sure that like you're on the other side of that and like secure in where you're at so that you can sell with conviction.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. It's very important for us to recognize that conviction and not condemnation. Those are two very separate things, and ethically, for us. And I want to take a step back because you said a word. You said PIF. Can you explain to us like the different types of closes or different types of sales? So PIF is pay in full, but there's also like being able to pay
Payment
monthly
plan.
payments. Yeah. What are some of those options?
So paid in full, of course, is like, let's say you charged 7,800 for your coaching offer. They come, they say, all right, I'm just going to throw it on an Amex, throw it on my debit card, and I'm just going to pay in full for the 7,800. That's one route. The other route is if they don't have the 7,800 and you've done what's called like an open wallet where you've checked and asked them, like, what do you have in savings? What do you have in checking? Do you have access to credit? Like, what does your retirement look like? And seeing what all they have available and like they can't make it happen. Then you look at like payment plans
Mhm.
and like see like, okay, I want to help you as best we can. Like, I don't want it to be where like, look, if you're going to wind up eating out of your car and you're going to lose your home, like eat, you know what I mean? Like pay your rent. Don't put them in a position that they can't pay their bills and things like that. But if at the end of the day, it's like, this is like changing their life forever,
Mhm.
then like stop asking yourself and making yourself feel guilty about, using their money because it's not about using their money, man. It's about loving them so much that you use their money to love them more.
Ah.
And so it's not about that love for money, right? And it's really about, they're in a place, they need to make change. You can work with them, figure out a payment plan to get them in. But at the end of the day, like the most important thing is like getting them in. And so like, don't let a payment plan versus a PIF like stop you from getting a sale. Dude, I've heard the reps that are out there that'll do that. Like they'll just go straight for the PIF. And if they can't get it, like they'll push them and push them to get a PIF and they'll lose the prospect.
Yeah.
Versus like they could have easily got them in on payment plan if that's the best they could do. And like they still make change in that person's life.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about they would push them for the paid in full, but, then they would lose the person, the ideal client. How do you know, like, how do you gear that or steer that conversation of, "I'm gonna push a little more," or, "Okay, that's enough. I need to pivot to, doing a payment plan."
So honestly, like something I learned from Sean Ray is when you're talking about the money, I also learned this from Will Hinkson both, is when you drop price. So let's say you've dropped my coaching program at 7,800 and you're going to just kind of keep quiet, let them respond. And if they are like, yeah, I don't know, you immediately just say, so when it comes to the money, is it a matter of just not having the money or hesitancy around spending the money?
Mm.
Because that bifurcates the sale to either, if it's they don't have the money, then you know that you need to like check and see, like fact check that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, what does it look like in open wallet discussion, checking, savings, retirement, that whole thing. If it's hesitancy around spending the money, you know they've got it. It's just fear. And then you need to tackle that.
Yeah.
And so once you've made that determination to figure out, is it hesitancy around spending the money or is it not having the money? Then you can figure out logistically, okay, this can work or this can't work. And if it can't, there's just going to be people that like you're not going to be able to help because financially there's just no way.
Yeah.
And like that's okay. Like a lot of people will create like ministries that they use their business to fund that ministry so that they can help those types of people that are in that situation.
Yeah.
But ultimately it comes back to like knowing and discerning like where they're at. And like you can only, if they're like right on the line, like, man, just push that person's.
Yeah.
Like if they're like, yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, I think that this is going to work for me. I'm just not sure about the money. Like give them that push.
Yeah.
But like if they're like really closed off and you feel like you're just like becoming, instead of it being like a conversation where you both are on the same side of the table, like trying to figure this out together, how can we make this work? And it starts becoming a like really, really confrontational, then like you probably know that you're pushing that limit of like you're gonna lose the person.
And they're just
And get me off.
almost like you're building a wall of like, okay, I'm building this thing of rejection by pushing and pushing and pushing. Now you're just on opposite sides and it's done.
Right. Because all an objection is a way of saying no.
Yeah.
Without saying it. Like some people will say no, but all an objection is saying like, no, not right now.
Yeah.
And so then overcoming that is all about turning those no's into like mini yeses
Mm-hmm.
and getting them back in line with the sale is going to help them overcome where they're at right now, getting that momentum back up.
Yeah. So tell us about those mini yeses. Give us maybe an example or something of how you'd find those mini yeses after they've given you an objection or getting ready to say no.
Yeah. Like let's say they said, yeah, I need to think about it, which is another way of saying no. Like they're not agreeing to go forward. And so it's like, okay, so like, that's not a problem. You want to think about it. Like, what do you need to think about? Anytime somebody says to me that like they need to think about it, it's usually due to lack of clarity. So like, what can I offer you clarity on? And so that gives them an idea to ask you some questions. And then you can immediately follow that up with, okay, so money aside, do you feel like everything that we've covered can get you to the goal of getting to X, Y, and Z?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're like, yes, there's one yes. Okay. Why do you feel it can though? And then they're going to tell you and basically sell themselves on your program, on your offer, on whatever you're doing, because you're getting them to reestablish that momentum of like, oh, this is right for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. And I feel like there's a verge of like building that wall and knowing what's ethical and what feels good to you, not out of fear, not out of anything like that, but ethically what's good and what's not. So I know you've talked about some 3 rules of ethical sales. You want to walk us through what that looks like?
So learn this from Peyton Welch. And 3 rules of sales are: 1, your job in sales is to help the prospect do what's best for them, whether that's working with you or not working with you.
Mm-hmm.
The second rule of sales is what's best for the prospect is almost always outside of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third rule of sales is prospects will fight like crazy to stay in their comfort zones.
Mm.
And so as long as you stay within those three rules of sales, those 3 laws, basically, then like you'll be able to sell with confidence and persuasion and not manipulations.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the difference between like the loving persuasion and manipulative pressure to people.
I think that loving persuasion. So I'll give you an example. A while back, I didn't ask this person a question that I felt like I should have. And I felt God challenge me and say, why didn't you ask the difficult question on the call?
Mm.
And like, do you not love the people the way that I love them?
Mm.
Because by you not, like, you have to realize you're going to take hundreds of calls. This may be their only one call that they're going to have, that one opportunity, that one chance to have a life-changing conversation with somebody. That's you. And you just happen to be in that placed there by God. If you're a Christian, and you're walking in his alignment and everything, like, you have been placed there and called for that time to call these people forward. And the reality is whatever you say is a lie. Whatever they say is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how people perceive it. Like, even if you're talking to somebody, you may believe them like a percentage, say like 70 or 80% of what they're saying is true. But then there's always going to be that 20% that, like, you're not going to be sure of. But if what you say is truth, then asking the right questions to bring that prospect into alignment of what God says about them and getting them to confess what God says about them, that's where you can have true change within somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Let's
so
do it.
manipulation is really like taking that and spinning it even worse to where it's like, it's not best for them to join your program, but you just want to get a sale. And so you're going to try to pigeonhole them and trap them into a place of purchasing something that they probably didn't even want to do to begin with.
Sure.
So
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation. I feel like a lot of times when we start to get those objections, and we're gonna get to those objection here in a minute, but I feel like sometimes as I started diving into sales calls and into closing, specifically, is I would coach too much on the sales call versus closing. How do you find that balance, and how do you stick to a script, or like what's your advice for people that are struggling with that?
So something I learned is how a sales call goes is you have the beginning, which is like, kind of your intro and like your situation. And then you're going to dive down into problem. And there's different phases of that problem. And then when you get down and you've bottomed them out in pain, so you've got them to like let you know what their pain is. Because here's the reality. Some people they're conscious of pain. Some people aren't. Some people have dealt with pain for so long that they push the pain down
Mm.
that like they kind of ignore that it's there. It's kind of like if you've got a bad back for long enough, a lot of times you'll kind of get numb to that pain. And so then when you go to the doctor and the doctor asks you about it, it's kind of like, no, my back's fine. But then like if that doctor probes and asks questions, you start to realize that, oh, like, man, my back is bad, but I've kind of suppressed that. The pain, I don't really feel that, but like, yeah, I'm not able to like go on walks with my kids anymore. Or like, yeah, I'm not able to like lift things like I used to be able to.
Mhm.
And like, what would it look like if I was able to do those things versus where I'm at right now? And so once you've like bottomed them out in pain, and you'll know whenever you get there, like I've even had God like, tell me on a call, all right, get them out of the pain. Because at the end of the day, you want to be a hope bearer and push them out of that pain into the future of what would it look like if you were walking in all that God called you to?
Yeah.
What would it look like if you didn't have this problem? What would it look like in your life? And so then you bring them up into the future, and then you immediately bring them back down to a cost of inaction.
Mm.
So you're at really two decisions, right? One is you do what you were just talking about, where you do get out of where you're at and you become that person that you want to be. Or two, if you see the promised land from a distance, but you never actually step into it, are you okay with that?
Mhm. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And there's many people that get stuck in that journey, and a lot of times, a lot of coaches that I've known really harp on those pain points and just drive those pain points so much. And while there's places for that in certain places, we have to remember that we're messengers, and the messengers of the good news. We're not standing on the streets, yelling, about hell and brimstone and all this and that. No, we're here to be hope bearers. We want to help them, like you said. And so I love that. I love that. So, should we jump into objections? Can I throw a few of the most common ones at you?
I think so, man. Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. So, now, as you guys are listening to this, I want you guys to drop down any of these numbers that maybe you have experienced, or maybe you know that it was yourself as well. So the first one, the number one that, as I did this poll that I've heard, is I need to pray about it.
Ooh, that's a good one. So here's how I like to tackle that is before you ever get to that objection. So after you've done your pitch and you've done your presentation, you're going to ask them this one question on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being this is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, and 10 being this is exactly what I've been praying for. Where do you fall on that scale?
Hmm.
And you can't choose 7 and then, laugh about it a little bit, because as Christians, we love the number 7. You're not going to choose 7 because naturally that's what people think. But if they say anything above like a 9 or a 10 and they've already been praying for it, then whenever people say that they need to pray about it, then you're immediately going to say, yeah, like that's not a problem. Like I'm a Christian myself and I pray about things too, but can I ask, is it possible that the thing that you're praying for is right here in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is we as Christians, we can often put things off by delay, by a spirit of procrastination, because we think that the door is always going to be open.
Yeah.
And the reality is like doors do close, and that the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized within the lifetime of that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so is it possible that the thing that you've been praying for is right here and God's waiting on your obedience to step through that door so that he can show you the rest of the plan? Because at the end of the day, you're just looking for certainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say yes and say, the reality is like the results that you get in your walk with God and how much you accomplish is a direct correlation to the amount of uncertainty you're willing to live life with in the natural realm.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we look at like all of the people in Hebrews, like the big faith chapter, all of those people, if we looked at their situation, we'd say, man, like they didn't have any like certainty in the natural. It was all uncertain. Like Abraham, you're going to have you're going to be a father of many nations. And he's like, dude, I'm old. Like if we looked at it from the natural,
Yeah.
right? And Noah, it's going to rain, build an ark. What? Like they had never experienced rain.
Yeah.
And so like going back to that, you have to ask yourself, like, are you going to be the person that makes decisions based on how you've always made decisions and that's gotten to where you're at right now? Or are you going to make decisions like the person that God's called you to be and actually step out of the boat and meet Jesus where he's at? And then he's going to step out and meet you with your faith. Well, like none of that happens until you make a decision.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, if you want to pray about it and like you're still uncertain, earlier I asked you said 10 out of 10, like this is exactly what I've been praying for. But if that's the case and like you still aren't, like that's okay. But what I don't want to happen is the fear, the wind and the waves to get in the way of you making a decision and actually stepping out and walking towards your purpose.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go from here?
It's good. Do you give them a timeline of like, okay, well, pray about it for 24 hours, 48 hours, I'll call you back, set up another appointment?
If they're like, if you go through that and they're still stuck, then like, and you've already ruled out that it's the money, like, and sometimes I'll just ask them, say, is it because of the financial investment? That's why you need to pray about it. And just kind of lead in and make sure that it's not a money logistical thing, because they may be praying that God's going to, bless them with the finances to do it. But I would rather know that. So I at least know and fact check that than like just leave it at a vague pray about it.
Yeah.
And so one thing I learned is that like objections, they just need fact checking. It's not necessarily overcoming objections. It's fact checking objections to make sure they're the entire truth of what they're saying.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. One of the things that I learned at one point was to ask them, when you're praying about it, What's going to convince you that God has said yes that's different than what it is right now?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of times they're just throwing more fleeces, and to help them be able to understand that, okay, how am I going to know? Well, God's going to tell me. What if God's telling you right now? Like,
Right. Yeah. I've also heard, I had one person, they said that, it took them 20 years to get confirmation from, a pastor that they were supposed to do this. And, or not necessarily what I was selling, but what they were called to do. Right.
yeah.
And, God, I felt Holy Spirit drop it into me, say, call her out on this and say, the reason why it took 20 years was because God had to find somebody else who is willing to be obedient to give you that confirmation. Then had you just obeyed and listened to God's voice whenever he told you 20 years ago. And she's like, you read my mail. She's like, 100%. She's like, I've been delaying everything. And I did. She's like, I took the relationship and the trust that I had in his voice and what I can hear and put it in, okay, God, you have somebody else tell me. I mean, it's like Joseph and the cupbearer. Like Joseph's like, remember me 2.5 years later. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, there's this guy in prison that can like, he reads dreams. Like, how often do we do that though? That we like, we put the responsibility on to somebody else because we don't want to take that responsibility for ourselves and like our ability to hear from God ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. That's good. All right. Number one is I need to pray about it. And remember, drop some of these in the chat if you have experienced any of these. So number two, I need to talk to my spouse. The good old
I got this.
spousal objection.
So this is a tricky one. Like, and in the sales space, there's like a big division, I feel like, in this. So some will say that it's a smokescreen, that like they don't need to talk to their spouse and that they're just giving you another way of like trying to get out of it. Some will say that it is a legitimate objection. Me, myself, I believe it is a legitimate objection, especially if it's a high ticket amount. Because like, I don't want to be, I mean, there's some people out there that might be okay with it, but I don't want to be responsible for somebody getting a divorce because they went out and spent $7,800 without telling their spouse about it. So typically what I do is, yeah, that's not a problem. Like, can I ask before you do go and talk to your spouse, do you feel like everything that we went through can get you to where you want to go? Or how do you feel? They're going to answer. If they say yes, okay, got it. And so whenever it comes to the investment, is it a matter of like not having that investment or hesitancy around spending it? Or like you have the money, you just need to talk to your spouse about it to get their go ahead with it. And then when they give you that answer, you've gotten rid of the money, you've gotten rid of the confidence. Then the last thing on the checklist is fear. And so if your spouse is 100% on board, are you going to do it? And if they're like, yeah. And another thing too is that you can kind of have an idea if this is going to come up at the end, is you can treat that earlier on in the call whenever you're going through discovery and just ask them like, are you married? Oh, okay, cool. You got kids? Oh, nice. So your spouse, like, do they know that we're on the call? Or what do they think about this? Like, what do they think about, that? And you may not be able to like treat it then, but at least you know that it's probably going to be an objection that's going to come up at the end. And so then you can, after you've gone through that, that checklist, then the last thing is set a follow-up call. Like if you've conquered money, you've conquered confidence, you've conquered fear, set the follow-up call and be like, all right, let's do this. When do you think your husband in the next 24, 48 hours would be available, or wife, that you could hop on a call with me and they can join as well, and I can answer any questions they may have? Like, when would that work for you? And be like, I've got mornings or afternoons, whatever your schedule looks like, and kind of like hold that leadership frame of let's do this. I've got tomorrow, I've got this available. Book that follow-up call and then tell them, a few things. One, you have any questions between now and then, be sure to write those down so you can ask me on our next call. Two, look, if you talk to your spouse, they're like, there's no way we're not doing this. Like, still take the call with me because I'd like to pray and support you regardless moving forward, whether it's with us or not.
That's good. That's good.
And that gives them the out, and you're going to have a higher show up rate on your follow up calls than if you just leave it open like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What if they don't remember or they want something in writing or can you send me the offer or something like that? Do you give them something physical to go away with to share with their spouse?
Yeah, I'll usually send them the email, like an email of like an offer letter where it's like a detailed breakdown of everything that we went through. But then I'll also let them know that like it's easier for me to answer questions about the program because I have more knowledge about it than what they may know. So it does make more sense to get them on the call with me versus like them just trying to go explain, hey, I talked to this guy on the internet and he's got this, plan available that he can help me do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so like, you kind of coach, that's where you can take your coaching and like kind of coach them a little bit. And then it kind of becomes this team thing where it's like, yeah, we're on board. Like, I'm excited about this. I can't wait to tell them.
Yeah. It's good. That's good.
So,
All right. Number 3, I don't have the money.
So one you want
like they're blatantly saying, I just don't have the money.
Okay. So one I'm going to say, I'm going to go and just ask them the money question. Is it a matter of not having the money at all or just hesitancy around spending any money at all? And say, okay, what do you have cash on hand that you could invest? Like if we were to come up with a way financially, like what could you invest? And if they're like, I don't have anything, then you're going to use a reframe of, is it possible? Like, are you open to a perspective on that? And they're like, sure. Have you ever been in a point in your life where you didn't have the money to do something? Like maybe your car broke down, but you had to go to work, or something like your hot water heater broke and like you didn't have any hot water, but you found a way to make that happen. And so it's no different than what we're talking about right here. And so really it's not that you don't have the money, it's that you don't have the right skill set to create value in the marketplace that people will give you money. Like, can you see it from that perspective?
Yeah.
And if they're like, yeah, then say, okay, so this is no different than any of those situations. So do you want to continue to be the person that doesn't have any money, that works 40, 50, 60 hours a week, that has no time with their family, that has no time for themselves? Or do you want to be the person that becomes resourceful, goes out and finds the money to make it happen so they can get out of the place that they're in? And like, you're going to lose some people because they're still not going to be able to find money, right? Like there's still people out there, but at least you've given them encouragement. You've given them a perspective that they could actually go out and find the money. Cause it's like, I forget who it was that said it, but like if I showed up to your house with a Lambo and said the Lambo is 7,800, like if you didn't have 7,800, would you tell me I don't have the money? Or what would you say? Like you'd say, yeah, give me like 24 hours and I will find the money and I will buy the Lambo from you because I know I'm going to be able to make a return on my investment.
Yeah. When they say they don't have the money, do you give them ways or proven things that people have gone and sold things, or, look around your house and see what you can sell? Are there other ways that you can help them be able to creatively think that money through?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll ask them like, do you have any family? Do you have any friends? Do you have any church family, church friends, people that would sponsor you to do this? And if they're like, no, okay, do you have anything that you could sell? Like, do you have anything around the house that just sits there but has value? And like, see what's there. And of course, like you're going to run through like the whole credit profile before you ever get to that conversation to like see if there's a way they could finance it or things like that. But I mean, for the most part, like just giving them ideas to be resourceful and then like letting them know that when you do go talk to these people, you need to position it so that they see that you're passionate about this and that you're wanting to change from where you're at. And the reality is like these people that they're probably going to go talk to have probably lent them money in the past. And so like they need to frame it as, I want to be in a position where I can like not have to borrow money from you anymore. And this is like going to be the way that's going to help me to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it's good. That's good. Yeah. All right. Number 4, I need to think about it first.
Yeah. What do you need to think about? And that's it. No. No, I've asked that before. What do you need to think about?
Yeah.
And if they say that right after you drop the price and they're like, I need to think about it.
Mm.
Yeah. Is it because of the money that you need to think about it? And then go right back into that money and asking them, yeah, is it a matter of like not having the money or hesitancy around spending it?
Yeah.
Well,
No,
it's,
I love what you did there, and I want to point this out to the listeners, is when you said I need to think about it, you paused. You didn't say a single thing. You just sat there and you stared. And that's intentional, right? Like,
right.
it's to get them to actually think about what they are thinking about.
Right. Yeah. Cause that's a logical response from people that are like super analytical and like make decisions like analytical versus like emotional impulse type buyers. And like, there's nothing wrong with either one, but like typically analytical people will get stuck in where they're at and struggle making decisions because they overthink it. They get an analysis paralysis. And so like just really pacing it and not getting super anxious and be like, yeah, no, that's not a problem. What do you feel like you need to think about? Like just real calm, like, yeah, okay, what do you need to think about?
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. And like leave that pause, let it draw them in. Same thing after you drop price, pause. Like one thing I made a mistake whenever I started out was I would drop price and I'd be like, yeah, so what do you think? Instead of like pausing and letting them think. And I've actually had people ask me, they'll be like, are you still there? And it's like, yeah, I'm still here. I was just, let, you know, told you the price and I'm still here. Do you feel confident enough in what you've heard today that you're ready to move forward? And so like just really pacing the objections and not making it sound like you're just anxious, antsy, ready for them to like pay you and just being like cool, calm and collected about it. Like that'll help a lot.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. All right. Number 5. I've done these coaching programs before and I have been burned.
Ooh, that's a good one. So goes back to another one that like I like to tackle in discovery. Is like, is this your first time ever getting help for this? Or like, have you tried other things in the past and failed? But it's the same way as if, let's say you accidentally skipped that question or you weren't intentional and didn't ask that question. So it comes up as an objection. You could say, yeah, that makes sense. But here's the thing about anytime something bad happens to us in the past, it creates a belief system that then becomes an anchor that holds us back from actually getting to where we want to go. And so let me ask you, like, did you ever go to a restaurant and order a steak or chicken or whatever, and it didn't come out the way that it was supposed to? And they're going to be like, yeah, because that happens to everybody. Be like, did that stop you from ordering steak or chicken or going back to that restaurant? I mean, some may say like yes or, whatever, but most people are like, no, like I love chicken or I love steak or whatever. And then it's like, if they're married, especially this is a good one, is before you met your husband or your wife, did you date other people? Yeah. Well, did those work out or no? Well, no, they didn't work out. But did that stop you from pursuing your husband or your wife? And then be like, so the reality is like, this is no different than those decisions. And this is, going through programs, I'm sure that, there is a level of responsibility on those programs to provide what they say, but then there's also and I'm sure that's really frustrating for you, but there's also a level of ownership that we can take and realize that trying things aren't failures. They're just like the tuition and the price that we pay to actually get to where we want to go. It's kind of like nobody throws a Hail Mary on a pass in football and scores a touchdown every game.
Yeah.
Like it's won by a series of downs and sometimes setbacks and, increasing. And like, are you going to stop now where you're at and allow the situations and circumstances of your past to dictate your future? Or are you going to be that person that steps up to the line and makes another go and actually get into the end zone?
Yeah.
And so for you, like, which one do you want to be?
Yeah. 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 That's good. And I feel like a follow-up thing with this is, what makes your program different than these ones that I've done before? I feel like sometimes that it's not clear. And so we need to go back and kind of, here's some of the things that, make us stand out. What's your your unique value proposition, what makes you stand out from everybody else, that also can help.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's really going back to like a confidence thing, confidence in you, confidence in, that the program is going to work for them, confidence in themselves that they're going to show up. Like a lot of times you'll find out that they'll blame the program at first, but then they'll ultimately take ownership for it and say, I'll be honest, I honestly I didn't show up.
Mhm.
And so then you're going back to like building them up and, helping them see that they can actually do better, that they can, be a better version of themselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because here's the thing is like how we make decisions, like that will show up on everything, right?
Yeah.
And so like how someone has made decisions is how they always make decisions. And so when you're going through your discovery and you're asking them these questions and they're telling you how they made decisions in the past, then if you don't challenge that and you wait till the end and you've dropped price, don't be surprised when they start making decisions how they said they made decisions in the past.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you're going to use that as leverage and say, is it possible that, this is you showing up as your old self and the person that you've been up to this point?
Mhm.
Or do you want to change and make that difference and actually become the person that you want to be?
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. Man, I hope you guys are all getting value out of this because, man, this is great. It's great. All right, number 6. I'm just not ready yet.
I'm just not ready yet. Yeah, when will you be ready?
Mm.
Because it's easy to put things off till tomorrow. I mean, the person that weighs, 700 pounds, like it's easy for them to say, yeah, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. But then, tomorrow turns into a week, turns into a year, turns into, the end of your life. And it's like, why not today?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, there's really 2 things that you can do. One is you can continue to put it off and going back to like, the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of that opportunity.
Mm.
And like, I'll give you an example from a personal experience. I was looking at booking a trip for me and my wife, and I was approved through a finance company to like book it. And I felt like God was saying, go ahead and do it. And I didn't do it. I waited till the very next day. I was like, I'll do it in the morning because I'm really tired tonight. So I waited. Well, sure enough, I had bought a lawnmower on my credit card and that hit my credit that very next day and prevented me from being able to book the trip. When God had told me to book it the night before, which would have allowed me to do it. Now, thankfully, my wife was able to do it, right? Like she was able to book it on hers, but it was a life lesson for me to realize that when God tells you to do something, don't wait, do it now.
Mm.
Don't procrastinate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. I got nothing to add to that. That's good. All right, number 7. It's too big of a commitment.
Gotcha. So is it too big of a commitment for you, or is that how you feel about, making the commitment? Like, why do you say that?
I think this person was talking about the length of time or how the amount of payments was how this person kind of put about it's too big of a commitment.
Okay. So something you could say is like, yeah, I can understand that the investment is a big decision, but you also getting from where you're at right now to where you want to be is also a big decision too, right? So is where you want to get to worth the commitment to go from where you're at to where you want to be, or how do you feel? And then let them answer that.
Yeah.
And you've got to reframe them and get them out of the logical space of like, man, that's going to be a lot of time, or man, that's going to be like a long period of work, and get them focused back on the results versus like the journey to get to the results.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Good. All right. Number 8. I don't make decisions on the spot.
Oh, why is that? And then let them answer. And then that gives you a better idea of maybe they were burned in the past and they made impulse decisions in the past, and that's created a belief system in them that has created a way of making decisions that now keeps them stuck.
Mhm.
So like maybe they did, buy something in the past and their, family got mad at them, or they got burned on something, they got scammed. And so like really just asking questions of like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
I don't make decisions in the past. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like when you go to a restaurant, do you just like, when the person asks you, what would you like today? Do you say, I don't make decisions on impulse? Or like, you know what I mean? Like nobody says that. I mean, maybe some people do, and then they just drive off or whatever. But like, it's really just about being calm, collected, and ask like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
Like, why do you say that? And if they'll answer,
Hmm.
well, like, I like to think things over. Well, now you're in a think about it type situation.
Mhm.
And so really just probing and clarifying that.
So it sounds like, in most of these, we're trying to get to the root issue. Again, comes back to needing some healing, having fear, those types of things. And a lot of these are kind of, we're getting shorter and shorter on the answers because we've already answered some of the other ones, which is good. I love it. I love it. It's great. All right, number 9. God hasn't said yes.
Mm. So I think that kind of ties into pray about it. Um, God hasn't said yes. I would think like in your discovery, if you were diligent about your discovery and asked like, how long has God been telling you to do something like this? And then you go through your tie down of scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, this is everything I've been praying for. Like if they give you a 5 on that answer, then like you don't have a lot of leverage and you probably messed something up in the pitch, or they weren't a good fit and you misread it. But like if they give you a 9 or a 10 or even like an 8, 8.5 or whatever, and they're like, God hasn't said yes, then a good response is it possible that like God is waiting for your action before he then shows you the rest of the plan and tells you yes?
Yeah.
And that a lot of times God is waiting for us to do things and he will tell us no more so than he will like yes. Like if you're doing it for the kingdom, you're doing it for that, then like God's gonna, give you direction on that.
Mm.
But like a lot of times he will tell you no, like that is not it. And so like at the end of the day, if you want to go back and pray about it and that's, what you're dead set on, like great. Like let's follow up in 24, 48 hours. Because of like if you're not confident that this is what God's calling you to do, then like I don't want you to do it. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to trust me, you don't have to trust the company, but you do have to trust God. And
Mhm.
what I don't want to happen is for you to miss out on an opportunity because of fear, because of the wind and the waves, and putting your beliefs in that rather than putting your belief in God that he's going to meet you where you're at with your faith.
Mhm. Mhm. When you were talking about that, a flip side of the question kind of came up. What if on your side of things as a salesperson, you recognize partially through that this person just isn't a good fit? How do you stop? Do you still give the pitch? Like, what's kind of your exit plan of like, yeah, no, this person is not a good fit for this program?
I mean, I'll just kind of like end the call there and I'll just be like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. Like, I want to be truthful and transparent with you. Based on what you've told me, I don't think that you're a fit. Doesn't mean that, and it could be that they're just not a fit right then and now. And that could be in the future, or that could just not be a fit like at all. It
Mhm.
could be a values conflict, which I'll tell them that too. I'll say, honestly, I feel like based on everything we talked about, like, I don't think you're a fit for the program and what we do. Like, we have a values conflict. And so, like, it's just not going to make sense for us to continue this call anymore. And I don't want to waste your time or my time, having that conversation and talking about it because it doesn't make sense. And just being honest with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. All right. Number 10, I'll do it when I have more clarity.
What do you feel like you need the most clarity on? What questions can I answer for you? Because I want you to be really clear before making a decision. So what can I help you whenever it comes to clarity?
Mhm.
And then let them ask questions. Like, I think one of the things in sales that we tend to do is we tend to talk too much instead of like asking questions and letting them talk
Mhm.
and really listening, and not just like listening and thinking, okay, what's my next question going to be? really listening to what they're saying. And it does take effort. Like it takes a lot of effort to like listen and dial in and be like, okay, what was it that they says? And then, you can really only take 5, maybe 6 or 7 sales calls per day. And if you're doing them 100%, like you're going to be mentally exhausted by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you know that like you've dialed into a sales call and really shown up as your best self, is when mentally you're just like, man. And so like prioritizing like sleep and making sure you're hydrated and, eating right and things like that does play a big part in showing up on sales calls, because if you're doing a bunch back to back to back, then like, man, like it does take a lot of listening in on what are their answers, what are their replies, and not just thinking about, okay, what's next to my script? Because then what happens is they give you an answer and you ask them another question on your script and they're going to be like, what's this person even talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be like, why is he asking me that? Like, that doesn't even fit with where we're at in this conversation. Then they're going to know that you're reading from a script at that point.
Yep. It's good.
So,
Good. So how do you know when to like lean into the objections and when just to release it to God? Like, okay, go. Like,
I think part of it for myself is like, when I get on a call, I always pray first and foremost. Do you care if I open this up in prayer? God, give me the wisdom, give us both the wisdom, discernment, the clarity, the knowledge to have a good conversation. Direct this call the way that it needs to go.
mm-hmm.
And there are times that in discovery, God will give me a question to ask somebody. Ask them that. Don't forget to ask them that. And then at the end, there's some times that I feel God will drop it in there of, it's okay, they're not ready. Or it's okay, like, let's let them, digest this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you push them too much, you're going to lose them.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, just really being in tune with your spirit, being in tune with the Holy Spirit, and recognizing when God is saying like, it's okay, like they're just not ready yet.
Yeah.
Like being okay with that.
Yeah.
And just planting the seed. And who knows, maybe you planting that seed on that call like changes their life forever. And they come back in 6 months and they're like, man, I can't stop thinking about what you were saying on that call.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. You said something at the very beginning. I'm trying to remember as you were talking about, if they don't buy, you're still going to be okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's all about having your trust in God that he's going to provide for you. And it's not like, yes, these people are like a vehicle that they're, providing. But like at the end of the day, like as long as you're doing what God's called you to do, like he's going to be the source of your income, not these people.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as you keep that and don't worry about it, like worrying, what tomorrow is going to be like, and just putting your faith and trust in God and realizing that it kind of goes back to like what Tamara says about the talents and how, God will give you according to your ability. And so when you increase your skill set, then God's going to entrust you with more because he knows that you're going to be a good steward of that.
Yeah.
And so as long as you can realize that financial wealth and your money is all God's at the end of the day anyway, and know that the more skills that you develop, the more wisdom that you gain, the more that you ask him for that wisdom, the more that he's going to entrust you with kingdom wealth, because he knows that you're going to use that to distribute to everybody the way that it needs to be, instead of just selfish gain where it's like, evil and things like that.
Yeah, that's good. I was reading on Facebook today, and one of the posts was talking about mindset, and was talking about that we need to stop saying that I'm going to get money, I'm going to make money, I'm going to earn money, because in your mind, literally, you can't do that. Instead, we should be saying, I'm going to receive money. And when I prayed about that throughout the day, because it really hit me, I was like, man, why is that so impactful to me? And as I started thinking about, because what I do is when I hear something, I take it to a kingdom perspective. And that's what the Lord was telling me, was saying, no, when you recognize that all the finances, your inheritance is already there.
Right.
and it's already given to you. All you need to do is receive it. Wow, what a different mindset that I have. And I'm telling you, man, that would not leave my mind all day today. All my calls, like that's all I was thinking about. I was like, God, tell me more, take me deeper on this.
So I was talking to Jay Hall the other day, and Jay.
Shout out to Jay Hall. Woo!
And we were talking about Myron Golden. And I told him, I said, do you know why Myron, it just kind of like had this revelation that dropped in my spirit of why Myron is so successful. And the reason is he doesn't think about money in terms of a number. He thinks about money in terms of the kingdom.
Mm.
And so he doesn't bat an eye to $1 million or $1 billion. He just sees it as it's more kingdom resources that he can use to help other people.
Yeah.
And so too many times we get caught up in the numbers and we get caught up in the zeros and all of those things. And it pulls us away from the vision that God gives us. Instead, if we focus on, man, we've already got all the kingdom wealth. What can I do more to like grow myself, grow my character to be more like God's so that he'll entrust me with more of it?
Yeah. That's so good. It's so good. Well, this has been a great conversation. It's been really, really good. It's been fun. If people want to find you, want to have a conversation, want to have any follow-up things, how can they get in contact with you?
They can just look me up on Facebook, Matthew Todhunter. They can shoot me a DM on there. Follow me, add me, whatever you want to do. But I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll drop your links down in the comments and in the description. So every time I like to just let the guest leave a mic drop moment. What's one thing that, if all this stuff that we've kind of discussed, what's one thing that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
That's tough, man. One thing. I think the most important thing would have to be just remember that, like, at the end of the day, your job in sales is to help the people make the best decision for them, and that you may be the only person that they ever come in contact with that changes their trajectory. And so when you approach it from that perspective, like, God has placed you in that position. And so really pay attention to what God is calling you to ask those people, and not just like focusing on getting a sale, and realize that sales is ministry. Like, I didn't realize that. But sales is ministry, and like your idea is like to serve those people and really minister to their hearts and show them that these thoughts that they've come into agreement with have really become anchors that have held them back from actually getting to where they want to go and where God's calling them to, and really helping them cut free of those anchors and getting them to like realize that is what's going to help you not only like close more deals, but you're also going to feel a lot better at the end of the day because you're going to know that you've made an impact. So like, I never knew what sales was until I actually stepped into that and like had that revelation from God that like sales is ministry. That really put that in perspective to me.
Yeah, that's good. Well, for those of you listening and watching, if you've been afraid to sell, if you've held back your ask because of the guilt, because of the fear, because of the hesitation, because you don't know what objections somebody's going to have, it's time that you show up like someone who actually believes in what you have to offer. And you have to believe in who that person is going to become, because like Matthew said, a lot of times it's where we used to be is going to be the people that we're helping. So boldness in business starts with obedience, and it starts with the obedience inside of us so that we can release it into other people. If you're not convinced that your program is the best thing that's out there, don't expect to have that other person be convicted that it's the exact same way. So thank you for watching. For today, school is dismissed, but your influence never takes a day off. So stay bold, stay focused, and go and leave your legacy. Bye.